All right. Hello, everyone. This is the LSAT Study Buddy, and today I'm going to go over the New York City Bar Association's 2021 LSAT Prep and Law School Conference. I just finished day one. It's about 8:30 on Wednesday, January 13th of 2021, and I took some notes. I took away all the main things that I saw in case anyone cares to take a look and to listen, or if you weren't there, wanted to be there, you can get the notes. It's here. It's on YouTube. It's here forever. A lot of what's going to be said is going to be applicable regardless of year, regardless of time, regardless of law school class, and so on and so forth. Regardless of LSAT score, a lot of this is just general, general stuff. So to get started, the way it broke down is like this: we came, you signed in, and we started day one. Day one started with an opening. Then we had two panels. The first, should I enroll in an evening or part-time program? That is not evening or part-time program as opposing possibilities, but rather as evening or part-time program versus full-time program. The different versus the standard, so to speak. And then panel two was about financing law school itself, in which we talked about loans and stuff like that. I'll get into it. And then there was a breakout session with a bunch of different schools that I was not expecting to be there, at least not at something that were roughly 200 people there today, and that's it. And this was there were some big schools. I'll get into all of it anyway. So the opening was started by Sheila Boston. She is the president of the New York City Bar Association, the first woman of color actually, which was awesome. And she basically gave this really warm, powerful speech about taking pride in the steps you're taking pride in wanting to become a lawyer and taking these steps forward. That was really nice, and that was followed up by Pam Morgan. Uh, so she works for Bloomberg Law, one of the primary sponsors of the New York City Bar Association's 2021 LSAT Prep uh, and something conference. I said it at the beginning, just a super long name. But she works from Bloomberg Law, and basically what I got from her is where there's a will, there's a way. She started law school when she was 40. She had four kids, all under the age of 10, while she was studying for the LSAT and going through law school. If she can do that and do such a tough test and such a tough degree with four kids, it's absolutely incredible, especially at those ages. I have a younger brother in that age range, and it's brutal. Trust me, especially if the mother with four of them, that's insane. But she did it, and it was really encouraging. It was very nice to have. Then we moved on to the first panel. Should I enroll in an evening or part-time program? And the New York City Bar Association brought in three speakers. One newly employed, one who's been employed for a while, and one who's kind of finishing up law school right now, all that work in the part-time or that enroll in a part-time program. And basically, one of their chief concerns as to to the full-time program as to why they chose a part-time program was really that finances, rent, food, expenses. I think someone quoted, one sec, let me bring out my notes. One of them said, full-time school doesn't pay the bills, because it really, really doesn't. And then someone pushed them and asked, well, if you were offered a living stipend where the school would give you the money necessary for rent, for food, for whatever it might be, personal expenses, but in order to accept that stipend, you'd have to work full time. Would you accept it? And he said that it would have been a tougher choice for sure, um, but that ultimately he thinks he would keep the part time for the networking that I'll get into. So um, I guess I'll skip to the fourth point here. The networking is still possible, right? Even if you work part time, people think that the only way to network is through full time, meet your peers, and so on and so forth, develop a deeper connection. But when you're working a job, and they made this clear, when you're working a job while you're in school, you're developing network within the company you're working for. then most of the people in part-time school, let's say evening school, right? They all work during the day. So you can network through your classmates essentially more effectively because they're already in positions at a company. And then if you're worried that you won't get the events that a full-time student is given by the school he's in, you can still find events through bar associations across states, events that bring lawyers together. And then in terms of actually being a student, they said there is no issue doing extracurricular or curricular activities, meaning, um, let's say, a journal or a clinic, or there were, I think, two of them were presidents of their chapters, Balsa organization. I, Black Law Students Association, I think it was, um, the Balsa organization, and basically a bunch of these different student groups, and it's still 100% possible even if you're working at a part-time basis. And then when you go out there and you look for jobs, they said that the interviews themselves, they start based on their law school, right? But because they have work experience, they go into a, or if you have work experience, you go into that interview and your interviewer is already asking you, like, how were you able to do law school, right? One of the most rigorous degrees, while also working a full-time job. And tell me more about that job. Tell me how it changed you. What did doing both of these, how did it affect you? And it already has an in, and they already have more, I guess, value than someone that doesn't have that, right? And that's why a lot of people argue for taking a year or two off to work in between undergrad and law school. So, um, yeah, it just really shows that work ethic. I don't know personally. I don't have a decision as to what's better, part-time or full-time. I think for me, I'd prefer full-time. I prefer to do it, get it out of the way. Well, not necessarily get it out of the way, but get the degree as fast as possible. I'm also potentially pursuing a JD MPP or a JD MPA. For those of you that don't know what that means, MPP is a master's in public policy, and MPA is a master's in policy administration. So yeah, especially if I'm going to do that, it's going to be another year on top, and I don't want it to drag on 6 years or 5 years. I want to be done in 3 or 4. But in terms of timing, in case anyone here is thinking part-time or evening school, generally instead of 3 years, it'll be 4 years. Or some schools offer the ability to take summer classes, in which case you can cut it down to 3.5 years instead of 4. All right. That was a lot. I feel like I said a lot there. We're going to move on to panel 2. Panel 2 is financing law school. And this is a huge concern for a lot of people. It's a huge concern for me. I have student loans coming out of undergrad, let alone what's going to come out of law school. I mean, you're talking, without a grant or scholarship, you're talking close to, what I think he said, $100,000 a year over 3 years. That's more than $250,000 in 3 years. That's insane. And then you have to pay it back plus interest, right? So basically, there's a lot to talk about. The first thing is, I guess, the small thing, but it's the first thing you're hit with. It's that LSAT, GRE, and application fees. The LSAT is $200 every time you sit for it, unless you have a fee waiver. GRE is, I don't know. I'm not taking the GRE, but I know some law schools accept it. I don't know which ones do. I don't know how good they are. I don't know what you need on it. I don't know any of that. Even like I'd probably be applying for uh, a Juris Doctor, the JD, and a master's in public policy, which is just regular grad school. And I don't even need to take the GRE. I can just submit my LSAT to both because I'd be applying to both. And then the application fees, that's dependent on the school. I think they range somewhere from like 50 to like 120, maybe. I haven't really looked into it, but I don't expect them to be that expensive, but they do add up. and fee waivers are hard to come by depending on the schools you're going for. And then they talked about 4 different ways of paying, at least upfront for school. The first being personal resources. That's personal savings, that's family contributions. That's basically all the cash, all the liquid capital that you can put in yourself before going outside to look for money, right? So, second is grants and scholarships, right? So you can apply. It's not even that's the stuff that you get from the school, right? Any merit-based aid for schools that offer that, any grants or scholarships from the schools, but you can also apply outside, right? Just like in undergrad, you could apply for a minority scholarship, or you could apply for a scholarship that's only available to soccer players, or you could apply for a scholarship that is only available for people that were born outside of the country, or scholarship. Basically, you can apply to whatever scholarships that you fit into. And some of them will require essays, some of them will require transcripts, some of them will require voice recording, whatever it might be. But you can bring that. That's another way to increase funds, to get money to pay for law school. Because the more you can pay up front, the less you'll ultimately need to take out in loans. Ideally, your loan amount would be zero, and you finish and you're out and you're making money, good money. Then that the third way to fund is earnings. Um, all schools said they have the ability to work around classes, even Harvard Law. Okay, Harvard Law was at this conference, and I went to their breakout session. And when I was there, the assistant director said, she said that Harvard Law students have the ability to work up to like 20 hours a week. They have the ability to work 20 hours a week around law school. However, she did go on to say, or in that same sentence, she said that Harvard and other schools, I'd assume, try to make it unnecessary. They try to offer you as much need based aid as you need to not have to work. But if you have to work, that you can work up to 20 hours a week, which is wild. I mean, just imagining how much schooling needs to happen, and how much studying goes into that, especially at a place like Harvard. I mean, you're talking, I think they're in 2021, they released the reports. I think it's, I don't remember. I don't remember. Either 2 or 3, which is a given. I think Stanford or Yale has secured the top spot. I don't know. Don't count me on anything. Check 2021 U.S. News and World Rankings, law schools, HYS top 3. Take your pick of the litter. Um, yeah, that's it. So earnings, and then lastly, you have your loans, right? And that's money you're going to take from the government or private bank, and that you're going to have to repay with interest. So that's a thing. Yeah, public or private, and your insurance rate is going to, or the interest rate is going to depend on your credit, or what bank you go to, or whether it's public or private, and all these things to varying levels of importance. And then the last thing that they touched upon, which is something incredible, okay? The United States government has a public service loan forgiveness program. What that means is if you work for a state, local, or if you work for the federal, state, or local government, doesn't matter, or you work for a not for profit organization, and I think there might be more, but those two for sure, and you make 120 qualified payments based on your income, then they will forgive the rest of your student loans. Meaning, if you work, and I'll go into the specifics a little bit, but if you work for 10 years, let's say for the state of Nevada, right? I don't know what you'd be doing in Nevada, but let's say you worked for the state of Nevada. for 10 years and you made your payments on time, the amount you're supposed to pay for 10 years, the rest of your student loans are gone. And that's based on income, right? So let's say you have a I don't know, a 15-year student loan repayment plan. I don't know how long they're supposed to be. Let's say 15 years because I think a mortgage is 30, so I'm just cutting it in half. Let's say 15-year student loan repayment plan. And it says that you're supposed to pay, I don't know, $1,200 a month. Sure. I don't know. I don't know if that's a lot. I don't know if that's a little. Depends on your loans. $1,200 a month. But you work as a minimum wage worker, right? But you work for the state of Nevada at minimum wage. It's income-based student loan repayments, meaning that based on the amount you bring in, they'll tell you how much you have to pay. So you could be making near nothing, and your student loan payments will be near nothing, right? And then once you make 120 of those, which is 12 months a year for 10 years, monthly payments, you can't pay it all at once. You can't pay lump sum. 12 months a year for 10 years, 120 payments, you're done. You're out. It's over. No more student loan debt. Now, there is a little thing you can do that I found on their website. What you can do is you can pay for up to a year of payments at once. Meaning, if in theory you had the money up front and you were just like, you know what, I'm going to pay all of my student loans for the next 12 months right now so I don't need to worry about it, you can. You can. I don't know how that benefits you as inflation rises the 12, I mean, very small over the course of a year, right? But the payment of the 12 months, if it's the same dollar amount as the payment of the first month, it'll actually be worth less then. But again, it's over the course of a year, which isn't a long time, so it doesn't really matter. But that's how that works. Public service loan forgiveness. And then we went into, so that's panel 2. And then after panel 2, we had the breakout sessions. And the breakout sessions were with every school, and each school had a different experience with different set of people, different set of questions. And I got to visit a ton. There were a ton of schools there that I didn't think were going to be there. I figured this is going to be like 200, 250 person event, which it was. We should be expecting like, maybe 30 to 50 schools, maybe 50 and lower schools, maybe I didn't really know what to expect. That's what I expected. I expected you'd be saying, you know, not top tier, right? I was flabbergasted. All right. I have the top 30 or schools from the top 30 here that were all there, except for BC, which is 31. So they got an honorable mention. That's only because I put BU in there, and I figured having BC in there lower than BU would be nice. Go Terriers. Eagles. What are you doing? So, Chestnut Hill isn't even in Boston. Anyway, different experience with different schools. I went to all these. I went to Harvard, asked some questions, got some answered. UMich was incredible. I think her name was Alice Chu. She was awesome. BU had a representative. I don't think she or he, I think it was the associate dean of admissions for the law school. I don't remember their name, but they weren't there in person. They were digital. It was through chat box. Emory was there. Fordham was there. BC was there. And I got all of my questions answered. It was awesome. If you see this tonight, being Wednesday, January 13th, highly recommend coming tomorrow. It starts at 9 a.m. and will definitely be worth it. I think the panels for tomorrow look incredible. I'm not going to spoil it, but definitely recommend looking. I'll upload an update on those tomorrow when it's over, just like I'm doing this now. And then lastly, because I'm running out of breath, the verdict. How was it? Was it worth it? It took 6 hours, and the answer is yes, it was. It was so worth it. It was incredible. I loved every second of it. I learned so much, and yeah, it was just really great information, and it felt good. It felt good to know that there were people there and there were people ready, and you finally got to put faces to these schools, right? You see these schools, and I've been staring at them, and it's just median LSAT 25th, 20 or 25th, 75th, median GPA 25th, 75th, and it's just all in here. Just they're just numbers. They're just numbers. I'm just an applicant. But being able to look at them and see their face and put it to the school, it was just nice. It really personified the process. It took a lot of pressure off. Um, yeah, it was definitely worth it. I highly recommend going tomorrow. If you see this tonight, you can find it online. I'm pretty sure you can register. It's free. I don't think there's a time limit. You can probably register in the morning before it. It's the New York City Bar Association. I'll pull it up actually. It is the New York City Bar Association 2021 LSAT Prep and Law School Conference. I'm sure if you Google it, you'll find it. Anyway, that's my roundup. That's my wrap up. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. If you liked what you heard and you want to see more stuff like this and you're excited for tomorrow, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to comment. Make sure to subscribe. Turn the notifications on. I live stream every day. I upload videos whenever I find something interesting or something that needs work on. If you like it, you like it. Make sure you're here. All right. Good night, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good whatever it is, wherever you are. This was the LSAT Study Buddy. We just went over day one of the 2021 LSAT Prep and Law School Conference done by the New York City Bar Association. And that's all. See you later.